Welcome back to the Theology of the Buddy podcast, episode 60. My name is Chris, and I am joined by my zestful co-hosts, Mike and Brooke, and shortly, hopefully, our prodigal podcaster, Julie, will be returning to share some of her candid comments. And today is our episode 60, our final episode of season 2. And today we are talking about to trad or not to trad. It's going to be an interesting conversation because I have no idea where my wonderful co-hosts sit. So stay tuned for that. We've got some great news coming up. Anyways, friends, how you guys doing?
Doing great. How are you doing, Brooke?
I am surviving, doing my best to survive. My children are nuts. Vincent had a horrible fever. Pretty sure he had rosola, but I'm not sure. You know.
Yeah.
And now Chris said I'm zesty and it really makes me want Doritos. Like sweet chili heat Doritos.
Not zesty Doritos.
They're pretty good, but... Oh, Cool Ranch Doritos.
Dude, I love Cool
Apparently
Ranch.
there was a shortage of Cool Ranch Doritos during the lockdown. Did you hear that?
No. What did you say, Chris?
I love Cool Ranch Doritos. They are so good. So good.
I can eat a whole bag.
Oh, I could too. It's bad.
Me and one of my very close friends one Christmas pulled out a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos for like our little Christmas hangout, and we were opening presents together, and we ate the whole bag, just the two of us in one sitting in like half an hour.
That's really not that impressive though. For two people, I could do it on my own easily.
We were two girls.
I mean, is this really a contest you want to win?
This is true. In comes the voice of reason.
When I was a teenager, I could eat a whole large pizza just on my own. But like it'd have to be a thin crust pizza, but I could do it easily.
Still.
I could probably
I
still
remember
do it.
in university, my roommate and I used to order a large pizza and each eat half of it. That was like a regular thing.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder you're better looking now than you were then.
Definitely eat a lot better.
Yeah. You were good looking then still.
Let's be honest,
Biased.
though. Let's be honest. There was the Christian Noodles restaurant that was in your college town. Man, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Tell our listeners about Christian Noodles.
Christian Noodles. Well, it was a Chinese noodle shop, and they had like a bunch of Bible quotes and stuff up inside, just kind of randomly, I guess. So we started calling them Christian Noodles. At one point, they took down all the Bible stuff, though. I think like the owner left or something.
Boo.
Yeah.
Boo. Agnostic Noodles just doesn't have the same ring to it.
They just didn't taste as good after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Rough. Well, speaking of things that we love, food, we also love shout outs. So let's make a quick jump over to our shout out section, wherein we shout out our newest shout out that was submitted 2 months ago, almost exactly.
Oh my
Sorry we haven't commented on this yet, but here it goes. It is from Chrissy MS12 via Apple Podcasts. She gave us 5 stars, and the title is Learning a Lot. And the comment is, quote, clear, concise, non-egotistical podcast. I am learning a lot. I like that they are in my diocese. Great podcast with obvious good intentions. Entertaining listening. Aw, Chrissy.
Chrissy, give you 10 stars.
Oh, easily.
Wow.
You're in my diocese. I would happily feed you.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't.
I think she likes
lie.
you more than us.
I feed you every dang day.
It's true. But how many stars have you given me? Definitely not 10 out of 5.
Get 9.5 for that.
Oof.
Oof.
Out of 100.
Oh boy.
It makes him laugh.
It's a cold night in the Strauss house. Oh my gosh.
Wah, wah, wah.
Even I get more stars than that. Hey, yo. So, speaking about those who we'd give stars to, the Diocese of London. Let's talk about how many stars does the Diocese of London get for their response to the COVID-19 crisis.
Let me talk about all the stars I would give the London Diocese. Okay, done. Next topic.
Agreed. Man. So, Mass is starting this week. Praise be Jesus Christ. Again, it had to start because the government has given obvious permission for the people to open the churches to attend Mass with 30% capacity.
Yep. And just to be even more clear, they gave permission, like they gave notice last week, and the permission started on Friday. Still no Masses this Sunday because no one decided to get ready to do any of the stuff for Mass. I think no one. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I have a comment on that we heard firsthand today.
Mm-hmm.
So even though some places can have 30% capacity, it all depends on the pew layout. So with 30% capacity at the one parish that we went to and spoke to the priest with, it would be about 180 people. But because of how they have to distance everyone, they can only fit 70.
Mm-hmm.
So your 30% capacity might be 100, but you might only be able to fit 30 of them. Be prepared for that.
Yeah, because they have to mark every spot where a person can basically sit 6 feet apart.
You have to
in the
register
church,
it.
right?
People have to ask you, like, drill you with health questions. Like,
It's crazy.
sanitize everything. Can't go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
No, stuff like that.
I heard an interesting workaround today for that issue. So with this opening of phase 2, one of the things that they've done in Ontario is they are saying you may now have a social bubble of 10 people, and that group of people can all hang out and be friends and do things together. And yes, on behalf of the government, you can officially hug. So thanks for that, Ontario government.
Yeah, not Big Brother at all. Thanks, government. Needed to know whether I could hug my friends.
But the way that I heard it worded today was bring your social bubble to Mass, or create your social bubble with people at Mass so that you can work around the 6-foot rule. Because if you've got 10 people that you're friends with, you can fit your 10 friends all in that same pew and just say, this is my social bubble. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it wouldn't go over well with a lot of people, but I mean, it's a loophole, and I think it's a smart one, you know?
I mean, even if it is a loophole, I feel like most parishes are going to be super difficult about it.
Exactly.
But that's just my feeling.
Yeah. You guys know how I've been feeling about this whole thing, right? Because one of the directives given by our bishop is that there is no communion on the tongue being allowed, only communion in the hand. And I've been so salty about it for like the last 2 days. I had to take a hiatus off of social media because every comment I was going to make was like, just kind of lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. Anyway, so if you follow us on Instagram, you can see my descent into insanity in the form of memes. So check out our Instagram story for all of that.
There's going to be more coming. So I just made one.
Yeah, Mike just made a really good one. Probably the best one. Yeah. Did you have a favorite one that I made, Mike?
There were so many really enjoyable ones.
I like the Winnie the Pooh one.
Oh, yeah. The glare from Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, bother, Piglet. The modernists are at it again.
Too funny. Guess who just arrived? Julie.
That would be me.
Julie.
I'm super stoked to be here.
Welcome back to the
I'm stoked
podcast.
to
It's
be
only
here.
been 12 years.
I know.
Wow. We missed you.
I missed you. Everybody.
Yeah.
Who did you miss most?
The listeners, duh.
Which of the podcasters did you miss the most?
I see you all the time, so Mike and Brooke, obviously.
No, you must pick.
You have to pick one.
Oh, then Brooke.
Yeah, take that, Mike, to the bank.
It's not surprising.
It's really not.
Hopefully I can stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm already
I know.
hearing the baby
I know.
starting to fuss. So, well, do you want to... The baby is starting to cry, everybody. See you around.
Come back later.
Thanks for coming.
Give us your opinion.
Okay. So, speaking of the weird situation, one sec. Julie left the door open. Wow.
Babies.
So, yeah, in our diocese, communion in the hand is going to be demanded, and obviously to the chagrin of every traditionalist in this diocese.
Yep. And violating the indult once again.
Yep. The universal norm.
Not that anyone cared about that.
Yeah. The universal norm, which has been reiterated by the Vatican even recently during the time of the swine flu. And that edict came from them saying you can't prevent the faithful from receiving Holy Communion. And the bishops are taking that power and still saying, sorry, disagree. Yes, we can. It's a bad situation. I was talking to our friend Bill from the Agios Dos podcast. By the way, just a real quick clarification. Last week on the podcast, I called it the Sword in the Cloud podcast. I was like baby sleep deprived, like so bad. So I apologize for the misnomer. It's the Agios Dos podcast. He goes by the Sword in the Cloud. His website is the Sword in the Cloud, but the podcast is called the Agios Dos. So anyway, my B, Bill Dykstra. But anyway, he was saying that in Saskatoon, that one of the parishes, Eastern Rite parishes, is demanding communion in the hand. I've never heard of that.
Now, they normally do intinction in most of the Eastern rites, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And so I have no idea what, like how they're going to go about that part. But I know that he said that he's going to another parish where they are distributing Holy Communion on wooden spoons and then burning the spoons after, which supposedly was done during the time of the plague. I didn't know about that, but supposedly that's the thing. Yeah. So, I mean, they're trying to be a little bit more practical, creative, whatever. I still think it's less dignified, right? It should be a sacred vessel on which the host is placed. But I mean, at least they're trying something to ensure that the faithful don't have to touch with their hands the sacred species. So, yeah. Isn't that weird? Yeah.
I don't know.
I get the spoon thing kinda, although it seems a bit weird to like
Burn.
well,
I don't know how it works. Like the idea of there being particles of our Lord on, like our Lord on the spoon, and you burn it. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know how all of that would work.
Right.
For the history.
Well, isn't it kind of similar, just thinking out loud, to like the small and tiny chance of some molecule of the Blessed Sacrament being left for something like a sacrarium?
Yeah.
And like the reason that exists rather than
Yeah.
the sewer.
Yeah. Like, I presume that they are going to purify in the most Catholic way possible, in the most reverent way possible, those spoons before taking them to be burned, right? So they would ensure that there's no actual sign of our Lord left, you know?
Right. Okay.
But
that sounds like that would make more sense.
Yeah. Like, it's not instantly horribly offensive to me, like communion in the hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a priest this week call me, or fear that I was, he shared with me that he feared that I was toying with schismatic tendencies, essentially, because I was pitting myself against the indult of Paul VI. That was a fun conversation. Yeah.
I mean, we're all against the indult here, aren't we?
We sure are. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to explain to him because he didn't understand why I am so salty about the whole thing. And I had to explain to him clearly. I'm like, I actually believe that communion in the hand is a grave evil. And every fruit that has come from it has been evil. Like destruction of vocations.
Should send him our podcast about communion in the hand.
I don't think he'd ever listen. You know him. I know him. He's too busy. And especially now, the priests are so busy. The priests are so busy. Like, yeah. So, yeah, I just...
Yeah. It's obviously not schismatic. It's not like we're saying Pope Paul VI didn't have the power to issue this indult because he's not the Pope or something like that. We're just saying he made a really bad decision by allowing this indult.
Mm-hmm.
It was asked for in bad faith, and he still allowed it. It's something that should never have been allowed.
Right. Exactly. I was just like so salty, you know, and every ounce of me, it just affirmed why I've moved on from the Novus Ordo and why I personally consider myself a traditional Catholic. But
spoiler alert.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the right thing or not. And, you know, there has been talk among traditionalists, regular modern-y Catholics, whatever you want to call them, as to whether this is the right thing and whether we should be labeling ourselves. Cardinal Sarah recently even talked about this, how he thinks that there shouldn't be the label. But should there be? What do you guys think?
So let's read a bit of what Cardinal Sarah said, shall we? So he said, this is in a talk that was addressed to traditional Catholics, where he expressed his love and admiration for young traditional Catholics. He said this: some, if not many, people call you traditionalists. Sometimes you even call yourselves traditional Catholics, or hyphenate yourselves in a similar way. Please do this no longer. You do not belong in a box on the shelf or in a museum of curiosities. You are not traditionalists. You are Catholics of the Roman Rite, as am I, and as is the Holy Father. So, yeah, that's basically probably the best summation of that position against calling yourself traditionalist, I think, which I've heard from many people. But Cardinal Sarah, probably the most respectable voice that has put that forward, I think, and the most succinctly. I'm still going to disagree with Cardinal Sarah. And it's not because his point isn't valid, but I think there are other things to consider too. So obviously Cardinal Sarah is correct that we're all Catholics. Pope is Catholic. Cardinal Sarah is Catholic. But there are a lot of people who are Catholic who don't have the same values or practices as us. And sometimes I think that specificity is needed, especially when those Catholics who actually respect the traditions of the Church, as all Catholics should, are in the minority. So you can't rely on the proper assumptions being in place. When I was thinking about this, kind of tried to think back a step further and think, like, in our church's history, what have we done with divisions like this? And I wish I had more historical knowledge or resources to look this stuff up. But what I really want to know is what happened in the Arian crisis in the church. Because I think, like, I see so many parallels. But let me start from the beginning. The ideal in the church should be unity, right? Mm-hmm. Our Lord prayed in John 17 that they may be one as we also are one. And so all Christians should strive to believe the truth and be united in one church. And I think if that were the case, everyone would just be able to say, I'm a Christian. And it would mean the fullness of the Catholic faith, tradition, scripture, doctrine, everything. But that has basically never been the case in church history. Certainly it flew out the window with Arianism, although even before that there had been Gnostics and other heretics. Yeah, I was wondering what the faithful Catholics actually called themselves when most Catholics or most bishops were Arian. You look up articles on it now, they talk about them as Trinitarians or even Homoousians. I don't know if these are like applied by historians. Do you have any idea, Chris?
I have no idea. This is like, I've heard about the Homoousians. I didn't know about the Trinitarians, but yeah.
I have a feeling that's just a term applied later for people who believe in the Orthodox position on the Trinity. Yeah, I really think when we think about this, we can think back to this crisis, right? Because there was a time during the Arian crisis when it was not a formal schism. there were many decades where this was an internal dispute within the church. Neither side had been anathematized or anything yet. And again, even though Arianism is objectively a heresy, there was a time when most bishops believed it. And therefore, most lay people believed it. They followed the bishops. I really think we're in a similar situation today, where there are two factions in the church. One faction believes that the church's infallible teachings are actually forever infallible. Her tradition is good and holy, cannot be removed and replaced. And another faction who effectively believes that the church can be rebooted, can be restarted with something like Vatican II, that her liturgy can be replaced, that her dogmas can be ignored, that new magisterial teachings can come and replace old ones, and certain traditions no longer need to be respected. And this isn't a formal or de jure schism, but it is a de facto schism. And I think you can very accurately call the two sides in this schism traditionalists and modernists. I think it's the most accurate term to call the two sides in this schism. And the differences between modernists and traditionalists are at this point too important to paper over and to just get along and hope it works out. At this point, whichever side is correct, the other side is heretical. And, if you are on the heretical side, your soul is in terrible danger. So we can't kind of just cover over these distinctions and not talk about it. Yeah. While I think it makes sense in certain situations to just say, I'm Catholic and that's it, there are definitely situations where you have to stand and say, no, I'm not a modernist, I'm a traditionalist. In other words, a true, faithful Catholic. Just like in the Arian crisis, if you say, I'm Catholic, and someone says, oh yeah, so you believe in Arian teaching, you'd have to say, no, I'm Trinitarian Catholic, aka a real Catholic, not a heretic. Anyway, that's my position.
I think your position comes out strong. Yeah. Brooke, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. You had shared yesterday that you had some thoughts on this, and I'd be intrigued to hear your hot take.
I do. And I think Mike and I were saying this today, that my position is very much because I'm an empath. I empathize with people. I like to see things from every single angle and understand every particular experience as best as that I can. And I'm kind of a people pleaser, and I don't like confrontation, and I don't like to hurt people's feelings. However, my position is this. I understand why people would not want there to be a distinction between a trad or a traditionalist and non-trad or Catholic. Those reasons being that I think the right word is ontologically we're all Catholic if we've been baptized, right? Is that true?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I had the terminology right. So ontologically, yes, we are all Catholic by nature of of baptism. So the reasons. What does it mean to be a trad, basically? And here are some of the things that people would assume when you say, I'm a trad. means that you likely only go to a Latin Mass. It means that if you're a woman, you likely veil. If you're a man, you've likely discerned religious life.
Man or woman, yeah.
You do not go to the Novus Ordo unless you really have to. You only receive the Eucharist on the tongue and kneeling. Many people will assume trads are always angry or, just dropping bombs and calling people heretics and modernists and are unhappy at everything.
I would never do that.
This is just outside perspective. People assume for trads.
Just called everyone heretics and modernists a second ago.
Yeah, you hate everyone. If someone goes to a Novus Ordo, you hate them. But from an inside perspective of being a trad, it means you go to the Latin Mass, you receive the Eucharist on the tongue. You appreciate the traditions of the church. Its liturgy is super important. You don't settle for, Bunini garbage. Sorry, not sorry. And I think the part of me thinks that people don't like the distinction between trads or traditionals and just Catholic because of the divide that just the name creates. And what it all comes down to is that the two forms of the Roman Rite, the extraordinary form and the ordinary form, are so different that there is a need to differentiate because it tells what you believe and why. And it's really not clear what it means to be a Roman Catholic now because those two rites are so different and they communicate things very, very differently. So again, I don't like the bitterness that does come from people that sometimes identify as trads or, just Catholics or whatever. But there is a need to have a position, and it's okay. But again, I understand both sides, and still think I would say that I'm a traditionalist or a trad Catholic over just Catholic.
I think the big question that a lot of people who are outside of traditional circles have when they look at us is, what makes you more traditional than me? I mean, I go to Mass, it's the same Mass, it's just a different form. And the only thing that I can tell is different is that you guys are more mean,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I, from a personal perspective, right? I'm always bringing it back to my experience, right? The way that I thought in 2007 about where I was that I was a traditional Catholic. I thought, and the truth was I was traditional leaning insofar as responding to what I was receiving. Summorum wasn't even a thing then, so, but I legitimately thought, I'm faithful, I'm Orthodox, I believe in the teaching of the church, I'm faithful to the Pope, I'm, all of these things. But now looking back in hindsight, I can go, I had some weird theological opinions that were not Catholic, that I thought were Catholic, that were kind of told to me that, as a Catholic, I could have that opinion or that it's okay to have that opinion. but it really wasn't a healthy mindset. And so, yeah, I mean, so I tend to agree on this. For the record, for our listeners, like we hadn't had a conversation about this. We didn't know where each other stood on this point. We just kind of wanted to see and get each other's hot takes. So, but anyway, maybe before I share my thought, maybe we can get Julie to share hers because she's returned.
At least I'm here for the moment.
Welcome back, Julie.
Hi, girl.
Thanks, guys. You know, babies.
Yep.
So, hun, what do you think?
What do I think?
To trad or not to trad?
Definitely to trad. That's the short answer. So kind of in agreement with Chris, kind of what you were mentioning and what I sort of caught from you, Brooke. Like thinking over my experience of having come from that charismatic side of things and then coming into the traditional side of things. I think it's important to remember what my impression of traditional Catholics was. And I mean, at least at first glance, when we went to the Latin Mass in Harrisburg, I mean, you know, we were in shorts and t-shirts. I mean, we didn't really directly interact with people a whole ton. So, I mean, I felt out of place, obviously, because of the way I was dressed, but I didn't really feel judged necessarily by any of them. But I think kind of later on, as things started to change, you know, yeah, feeling judged was definitely a factor, but also kind of seeing the mad trad side of things. Like, you know, if you're not traditional, then what kind of Catholic are you? So that being said, and I think too, Brooke, like I'm in agreement with what you had mentioned about like ordinary form and extraordinary form. Like there is just, when you say I'm Catholic, it could mean that you go to Mass twice a year. You know, I think it's important to be clear about what kind of Catholic you are, because there are so many that are really Catholic in name and by baptism. And, you know, the practice of the faith is really not of importance. So to me, it's important to take ownership of that. Like, I am a Catholic who goes to Mass. I'm a Catholic who goes to Latin Mass. I mean, that's usually, if anything, what I'll kind of say. I think depending on the kind of population too that like I'll talk to, I remember an old teacher that I had that I ended up bumping into at a park and was talking to her. And, you know, I was saying that I went to the Latin Mass, and I mean, you could just kind of see on her face, like this, like, oh, that's where you go. So, I mean, there is that bad experience that so many people have had. So when you say you're a traditional Catholic, it's like either people think you're crazy, or they think you're mad, or they think you're judgmental, you know, or they think you're choosing to attend a terrible Mass that they had a terrible experience with, and they don't understand why would you even want to associate yourself with that, and with that group of people. Yeah. So kind of coming from all those factors, I would definitely say to trad, you know, I mean, obviously kind of leaving conversation open, because it kind of depends on who you're talking to in terms of how they'll take it. But it bothers me more to say that I'm just Catholic and leave it up to the interpretation of the other person as to, you know, kind of what level I fit in. And I think it's important to just kind of say my love and my charity, I guess, to the other person, show the rest, you know, show that I'm not a mad trad. I'm a Catholic who attends Latin Mass, you know, but be the kind of person that sets it apart and makes that experience different for them, that no, they're not, you know, like I'm not rigid. I'm not judgmental, you know?
I mean, even on the other side of things, like C&E Catholics is a term that I'm pretty sure we have all heard at least once in a homily at a Novus Ordo parish.
Definitely.
Christmas
but the thing is,
and Easter Catholics.
Yeah. But no one like says, if you're like, oh, I'm Catholic. Like there are so many people that I've encountered in workplaces and all that kind of stuff that'll say, oh, me too. You know, in discussion, I'll find out that they just go maybe a couple times a year, if at all.
Yeah.
You know,
and they will follow up often with that. I'm Catholic, but I only really go for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think it's important to understand each other too. You know, yes, I'm a traditional Catholic.
And they're not lying, like they're baptized Catholics. But
agreed.
This is something Eric Sammons brought up on his article about like why he calls himself a traditionalist. And one of the reasons was just that, right? Like, sure, you can say, if I say I'm a Catholic, it should mean I embrace all of Catholicism.
Yeah.
And I keep the precepts of the church and I actually practice the faith. But there are lots of Catholics who don't. And in fact, they're the majority. So it's no good to just, you know, scream that, it should mean this when you're talking to actual humans. And when you say you're Catholic, that's what they understand you to mean.
Yeah.
Is, you know, you go to Mass at Christmas and Easter when grandma says you need to, and you're totally fine with all kinds of perversions and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'm hoping we'll touch on this after, but like maybe we can discuss how to be trad in its fullest sense.
That's what our whole podcast has been about. The last 59 episodes.
Touche.
59.5, actually.
Anyways,
Chris.
so
Yeah. Before we get into my thoughts, just wanted to throw out to everyone who may be listening who is new. Did you guys know that we have an affiliate link with Tumblr House? Did you know that, Julie?
we do?
Yeah.
Oh.
Our friends over at Tumblr House are a fantastic proprietor of Catholic literature. They've got many titles, including The Latin Mass Explained, which has been one of our title books that we've been using by Monsignor Mormon. One of the principal texts that we've been using for our liturgical breakdown. So if you're looking for a way to grow in your own faith and to give us a little support, if you visit our show notes at theologyofthebuddy.com, and look for our affiliate link for Tumblr House, you can help us out greatly and get some really, really great Catholic books. So again, thanks so much to Tumblr House for hooking us up with that affiliate link. Okay, so where does Chris stand on this?
Enlighten us. We all want to know.
You guys ever use Twitter?
Nope.
I don't.
No?
Yes.
Well, if you use Twitter, Facebook, whatever, a lot of times you'll see a description box. And what we put in our description boxes are things like, what's Mike's? It's something like non-toxic patriarch or something like.
Yeah. Dungeon master, engineer, dad, husband.
Bald man.
My favorite part is non-toxic patriarch, though.
I love it. I love it. Like for me, right? It's Catholic, husband, father.
Dog father.
No. Carmelite. Or secular discalced Carmelite, because I have to tell everybody about that, just like as if I was a vegan.
Yeah.
Like board game aficionado, all these things. Okay. And host of the Theology of the Buddy podcast, of course. Why do we do those things? Right? It's because these things help describe us. In the church, there are orders, and every order has a charism, a thing that describes them, that describes their spirituality, and how they respond as a community to the call of their baptism, right? So Carmelites, their charism is prayer. Dominicans, I would say it's apostolic activity and study. And, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't pray. It doesn't mean that they don't think those things are important, but there's kind of a certain flavor to their spiritual life.
What about the Jesuits?
Let's pass. Hard pass.
Going into hostile countries against all odds to try to convert people.
That would be the traditional.
And then centuries later becoming heretics.
Yes. Yeah. But as Catholic faithful, we haven't always just called ourselves Catholics. There's always been clarifiers or qualifiers that we've added to help us frame how we understand what it means to be Catholic and how we adequately respond to it. And so not that I think that necessarily traditionalism is a charism, but I think it does kind of tend towards that. Because if you talk to general traditional Catholics, they're generally united on a number of fronts, those being the importance, like Brooke said, the importance of sacredness of the liturgy, of the church's traditional teachings, of the importance of family life. There's, in the primacy of Peter and the importance of the magisterium, but not just the current magisterium, but magisterium for the last 2,000 years. Faithfulness to sacred scripture and not just trying to be incredibly critical of it, and falling into, modern day interpretations of scripture that are not connected with sacred tradition. So, yeah, I think you can adequately define yourself as a traditional Catholic, because what it does is it clarifies how you respond to the call of your baptism. And how is that, in our lives? One of the big ways is the Mass. So I would say, yeah, call yourself a traditionalist. But I think honestly, Mike's point is the strongest here. But I do think you can. And so I respectfully disagree with Cardinal Sarah, because to say that he is, or that we are the same kinds of Catholics and that we respond to the call of our baptism the same way as someone like Pope Francis does, that's not true. We don't walk around with Pachamama in the Vatican and call ourselves Catholics. We can't. We just can't, and yeah.
We don't create universal prayer centers.
True.
And call ourselves Catholics.
I was going to say, I think there is a hope that, or desire in everyone's hearts, that to just be Catholic and leave it at that would be amazing. Mm-hmm. Because being Catholic, 400, 500, 600 years ago was liturgical. It was sacramental. It was, I would hope, people would be striving for holiness and reverence. But we've lost a lot of that in our modern churches. Even looking at architecture, look at the architecture, even just that alone.
Yeah, it's right in our faces, because we, since there was no public mass this Sunday, we drove to the nearest Catholic church to sit in the parking lot and pray. And the nearest Catholic church happens to be a modernist, brutalist monstrosity of brick. Literally just a cube. It is the ugliest building ever. Like, it looks like a prison. Like, if it was a prison, I think it would be shut down because it's too cruel to inmates. It's horrible.
It's got orange colored stained. Do you even want to call it stained glass? I don't know.
It's stained glass in the sense that it looks like when they were making the glass, someone spilled coffee on it and turned it brown.
Yeah. It's nicotine stained.
Like, you can look.
And grass stained. Oh, wait. Was some of them green, or were they like orange and purple?
Like, you can look at a 13th, 14th century cathedral and people would know that's a Catholic church.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at the cathedrals built now, or just, normal parishes, sometimes you don't know. And yes, like, inside each of those parishes is the tabernacle where our Lord resides. But everything built around it is so important too. It's not more important than our Lord, but it is still important.
Yeah. I want to go back to Cardinal Sarah for a second, because I think I do really respect his point and what he was trying to get at, which is that there's not two or more brands of Catholicism that are both Catholicism that just differ like this. There's only the one true Catholic faith.
Yeah.
And he came to the conclusion based on that you shouldn't use the term traditionalist. I think maybe there's a case for always calling yourself Catholic first and emphasizing the fact that being a traditionalist means being a real Catholic.
I agree.
But I don't think it follows all the way to not calling yourself traditionalist.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I diverge a bit from Cardinal Sarah's point, but I think he's really, like, he does understand the situation in the church as well. Like, he knows the majority of Catholics are not actually practicing the faith and stuff like that. Yeah. I wanted to touch on something else too, because, and I'll admit this is an excuse to sneak this quote into the podcast, because I found it today and my jaw dropped. I looked over at Brooke and I was like, this quote is the most lit thing ever. But one of the arguments against calling yourself a traditionalist, I guess, is that it's divisive, right? You hear this so much about trads, right? They're rigid, they're divisive, they're, causing dissension and arguments and disagreements, and they're so grumpy.
Or exclusive.
Yeah. Did you know there's I'm going to quote this canonized saint saying that there is only one reason for discord and disagreement and dissension. And it's not a saint that the modernists are going to discredit. I give you Saint John the 23rd. Once we have attained the truth in its fullness, integrity and purity, unity should pervade our hearts, minds, and actions. For there is only one cause of discord, disagreement, and dissension: ignorance of the truth, or what is worse, rejection of the truth, once it has been sought and found. That's Pope John the 23rd talking about why he called Vatican II. There you go. Your late quote for the day. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's fair to call ourselves traditionalists, and we will remain saying stay traddy at the end of our podcasts, at least for now, until, maybe Bishop Athanasius Snyder comes on the podcast and just destroys us all, and then maybe we'll concede at that point. I don't know.
Yeah.
To say what?
Maybe we'll allow Cardinal Sarah on for a rebuttal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So funny. So
If you're going to be a trad, don't be a mad trad.
Yeah.
No, be a kind.
As we
trad.
said in our response to the two Catholic dudes, we're not rad trads, we're dad trads.
Well, not all of us.
You can identify as whatever you want, Julie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, half of us are mom trads. In that podcast, it was just the two men.
There you go.
Yeah,
It doesn't rhyme.
it doesn't.
Mom bombs.
No, Brooke, that doesn't work either.
Dang it.
I do have to admit though, if any, like we were talking about before on the podcast, if you follow us on Instagram, I've been a mad
Salty
trad.
the songbook right here.
I am Salty the songbook. Oh my gosh. I am salty. But I'll calm down soon, maybe. I don't know. This whole communion in the hand thing just gets me going. It just gets me going.
Yep.
As Aaron would say, it really affects my daddy issues.
Well, permitted liturgical abuse.
You really can't handle it,
For sure.
No.
just like the Blessed Sacrament.
Yep.
So to end off the podcast, I thought maybe we could do and you guys can take a second and pull it up. I wanted to ask you guys, in season 2, what was your favorite podcast?
That's a tough one. There was some I had so much fun on.
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, it's like every podcast just kept being my next favorite podcast. But the first one that honestly comes to mind for me is the one with Christine Moss. Shout out to you and your beautiful family. Chris and I have had just so many discussions about the witness that she and her family give and are giving throughout the trial and the struggles that they are dealing with. I don't remember quite what did you call that podcast?
Anchors and surfboards and anchors.
Surfboards and anchors. Yes. Yeah. Honestly, like the courage and the just faithfulness and the hope that her family is displaying, I think is so inspirational and personally just pushes me on to be a better Catholic. I think the Lord is really giving them huge graces, and even in seeing other people's comments, like they're affecting a lot of people in very positive ways. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And also
I know
Mother's
what
Rule
my
of Life.
favorite
That
is.
she.
Sorry, go ahead, Julie.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying Mother's Rule of Life that she talked about in that episode. I ended up purchasing, and it is really, really helping me out. So, yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Look up the book if you haven't already. If you're anything like me and are disorganized and can't get your home life together and in order, that's the book for you. Sorry, Mike, all yours.
Okay, my favorite by a long shot is from Youth Mass to TLM. The Two Catholic Dudes Rebuttal. By far, that was my favorite.
Do you have a reason? Why was that your favorite?
I just think a couple things. One, it's really fun to retrace the whole story of our friendship together and see how far we have come. Two, I got to say on the contrary a lot, which is my favorite thing.
Okay, Oscar.
That's it.
Those are great reasons.
I really liked how we kind of came together to make the argument make sense too. Like, I was proud of it from how like we were able to take something personal, but also make it reasonable and charitable. And yeah, it's one I look back fondly on.
I have to admit, they never responded officially, but I joined an Instagram live with them once, and Danny Cleary, the jacked youth minister guy, he just like he cold shouldered me. I made some sort of like fun comment like, "Hey guy, like what's going on? How you doing?" And he's just like,
"When you're going to respond?"
I didn't say that.
Oh, I don't remember. Sorry.
But he was just like, yeah, whatever. Hey, Theology, buddy, glad you're here. Keep doing what you're doing. See you around. I'm like, all right, dude. Anyway, so they were not impressed.
Didn't he say like, listen to your podcast, but definitely disagree or respectfully disagree or something like that?
Yeah. But yeah, not a real response. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. Brooke, your thoughts?
I really like that response podcast too, to the like youth ministry, to the TLM. It made me proud to be Mike's wife.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
It exposed a lot of the good things I find admirable, and that's one of my favorite reasons why I give you 10 stars.
Do you have a favorite one that you were on?
That I was on? I still kind of chuckle a little bit when we discussed the Amazon Synod.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember I had read the entire document that came out. So I was just like, I'm ready to talk about this.
Yeah.
It hurts so bad.
You finished it far ahead of us, and you were just like, guys, I can't believe, what did I just read?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sad, but sometimes you just have to take a deep breath.
That was a good one. It also has a really good thumbnail. I'm looking at it right now. You just kind of cringing.
Yeah. And I like the anime one too. That was really fun. The D&D one was really fun. I like the ones where I laugh a lot. Not sorry.
I think I have a soft spot for the argument and rebuttal ones, because I like to dig into the logic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Chris?
Chris is looking through the list, I'm sure.
Well, have you decided?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think ultimately, my favorite one, the one that I think I took the most from was the surfboards and anchors.
You're just copying me.
No.
Oh.
I really...
Both of the wives are copying us.
Yeah.
Hey, that was my idea first, though.
Not surprised. No, I just found it incredibly inspirational, her story. And the fact is, like, I even got somebody reached out to me with regards to that podcast and said, like, you know, like, cause she's been involved in like theology of the body work and stuff like that. Maybe not I shouldn't call it theology of the body work. That sounds like she works for a car shop. Theology of the body ministry, I guess. And, you know, she's like, just somebody wrote to us and was like, you do know that traditionalists don't really like the theology of the body or like this kind of stuff, right? And I'm just like, I don't care. Because, like, first of all, she's a traditional Catholic. She goes to the FSSP. She's growing in her faith. And let's be honest, that girl, like, she is just, she inspires me to become a saint.
Me too.
Yeah. But yeah, so I find her incredibly inspirational. So that's that. I think I take the most from that. I really loved the Youth Mass and TLM podcast though. In terms of like group podcasts, I loved that one because there was, I don't know, like we just had, I don't know, the vibe. I don't know, just the general feel of like kind of reminiscing and, just kind of piecing apart what our thought process was as younger Catholics and seeing how we've grown and changed, and respectfully being able to say, two Catholic dudes, we disagree, and because they asked, they said, if you don't agree with us, share your thoughts. And we did. And boy, I don't think they liked it, but we did it.
Like my thoughts.
We did it so respectfully. I don't know. I wish they had actually responded, but anyway, that's besides the point. I also really, really enjoyed my conversation with Bill Dykstra talking about, Saints and Ladders and how a particular friend of ours who had passed away, how his life had impacted us in different ways, and how the importance of a life lived for Christ can change the people around you and you don't even know, so I enjoyed that. Yeah. So if you have a favorite podcast, friends, we'd love to know. So make sure you share that with us, because we'd love to know. We see the downloads, so we know that which is the most popular. But yeah, if you have a particular podcast that you really loved, we'd love to know. Quickly, maybe we can share some thoughts on our plans for season 3. Do you guys have some thoughts of what's coming for the 3rd season?
You're asking this, and you don't know anything that we've thought or anything, right?
Nothing.
This is just for fun.
This is just to share currently what we would like to see in season 3 coming this fall.
I think we're going to definitely be devoting a few episodes at least to Pius XIII's election to the papacy. Yeah. Probably the apocalyptic signs in the sky will be great. The ascent of the great French monarch. Slip that in there.
Those will be live, right? We'll do those live.
Yeah. We'll do Instagram lives
on
for that.
site.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will probably be discussing like a response to how the summer goes in terms of a mass setting, like a mass setting for us.
Yeah.
Because like in terms of how they're gonna, respond to the COVID, requirements and precautions and everything like that. Because we're going into it this summer and taking a break, and we'll probably come back and it'll be like, oh my gosh, guys.
Yeah.
So that'll probably come. I'd like to do a trad wife episode. Like, what does it mean to be a trad wife? Because
that'd be fun.
Like,
yeah, and that's a movement that's like it's not just like trad Catholic wives. There's just like people who are like, I just want to be a 50s housewife.
Yeah. And you're always happy.
Yeah.
Doing the dishes makes you, and your screaming children makes you happy.
We're looking at you, Modern
You're
Lady
always
Podcast.
happy.
We're looking at you, Modern Lady Podcast.
I
wasn't. I'm looking at Finer Femininity on Facebook, but I love that. I love that channel.
That's why we had this synod, and now you guys have to change your name to Trad Lady Podcast.
Yep. Yep. Trad Lady 1950.
Hashtag synodality.
No, I hope there's that episode. And who knows? I'm hoping that we'll have some interesting experiences that we can share with our listeners after the summer's over. Positive ones, I hope.
Yep.
Not positive COVID tests, just positive experiences.
I think if I can make a prophecy, it's not really a prophecy. I think this beautiful girl beside me named Julie, my wife, she will be returning in a more consistent capacity in season 3, which I'd love to see.
I would too.
/here. And I think we're going to have some good guests. I'm already in the process of making a list, up in the old
checking it twice.
Yeah. And I'm already kind of building those relationships and having conversations with some people. So it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be the best season yet. I really do. I think we're going to see some really cool things happening. So I think we maybe, unless Julie, did you want to share your thoughts?
I mean, you know me. I don't really have very great thoughts.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Because I've been absent for so long.
She abdicated.
I did. I abdicated. No, I mean, definitely the liturgical breakdown series. I'm honestly looking forward to being a part of that. Actually, a part of that. The rest, I don't really know. I kind of just want to be inspired about some topics. Yeah. So I'm really going to take the time, I think, this summer to really pay attention to what is that face all about?
Oh, because I remembered a topic that I hope we talk about.
Well, then you hop in then.
The spiritual temperaments. Hello.
Yeah. Modern Lady did a great... okay. I guess I will say this. They did a podcast pretty recently on the 4 temperaments. I went and listened to it, and then to the actual talk that inspired their podcast. And now I've kind of been sucked down a Father Ripperger spiritual theology rabbit hole. So,
yeah.
And I mean, honestly, it is absolutely blowing my mind. And definitely like calling me on spiritually in a very big way. But I think like having that as kind of like topics for the podcast. Yeah, particularly more that, I guess, growth in that spiritual life is something I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Like it's deep stuff. So, yeah.
Nice. See, in season 3, one of my big hopes is that we will be able to add more value to everybody's spiritual life in some way or another. We don't want to just be an informational podcast, and we don't want to simply just be a conversational podcast. I think that's what kind of differentiates us from a lot of different podcasts, is we don't have a niche in a way. We're not just like always instructing, and we're not just always, sharing personal testimony or whatever. But I think, one of the big hopes that I have is that, and especially already, but I think even more, is that you have taken things from our podcast and it's helped you to grow in your own spiritual lives and grow closer to the Lord, closer to Our Lady, and fallen more in love with the most holy sacrifice of the Mass. At the end of the day, that's really, I think, our end goal, is that you would encounter Christ and the beauty of his church through the sacred liturgy and through the church's most ancient sacred liturgy. And that you would hear from us that invitation to come and see. So I hope that we can do more of that, and add more value to your own spiritual lives, we just and also just to give you that experience of that friendship and that fellowship that we have.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we are committed to do is essentially opening up the table to you. We don't have this us versus them kind of opinion here. It's you are welcome here, and we're really glad that you're here wherever you're at. And we want to get to know you and continue to get to know you. To all of our friends that we've encountered over the last 2 seasons, we are inextricably, is that the word?
Inexplicably?
Yeah, I don't know. We are just
What are you trying to say?
We're just so grateful. And there's no words to describe how thankful.
Indescribably.
Yeah,
that's really what you're going for.
We are infallibly thankful for you.
We want you to grow along with us.
Yeah.
Grow alongside us.
Indefatigably.
Yeah. No, but I just really, from all of us, we're really grateful that you're here, and we hope that you've felt that you've grown in friendship with us too, that you consider yourself one of the buddies, because you are. I don't know. Those are kind of my final thoughts to close out season 2. So thank you. Did you guys have any closing thoughts before we end it?
Can I do a visual litany plug?
Go for it.
Yeah. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, I'm at Visual Litany, and I create cool artwork. We discussed one of my pieces 2 episodes ago, I think, a response to my experience of the social distancing, coronavirus, everything. And it'll hopefully be up for print and order in a few weeks.
Yeah, particularly the Catholic response to it and what we've experienced with our bishops and stuff.
I have lots of ideas coming. I have huge drive to, show my geeky Catholicness with all of y'all.
Yeah, go follow Brooke. She's great. I'm not biased. Yeah.
No, we're grateful that you've decided to share your art with the world. It's really beautiful, and I think you have grown quite a bit. And the most recent piece actually really is just inspired.
Thank you.
Like I said before, it's really
so good.
Yeah. So check that out. We'll put a link in the show notes to her page as well. But did you guys want to say anything to the listeners before we close this out?
Pray your rosary every day. Our Lady said to, so you should do it.
Yep. Meaning the hand, don't do it.
You would be better to not receive on the hand and make a spiritual communion at Mass than to receive in the hand.
Boom. Roasted.
And the Great Shave, when this comes out, it'll be the final day of the Great Shave campaign. So make sure you visit us on Instagram to find out, did we make it or not to 700 followers?
Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram. So if we don't, then
y'all get no say.
Y'all get no say, and you get to see what happens. So make sure you're subscribed so you can see that.
Help a wife out.
Yeah, guys.
Help a wife out.
Mike described my beard yesterday. He said, and I quote, "Chris, your beard is as big as a planet."
It's so fluffy.
That's true. He had it all puffed out, and it was like a basketball on his chin.
A hairy basketball.
Tame that beast.
Gross. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Do you want to do the sign off, or do you want me to do it?
You can do it.
Okay. Well, guys, this is it. End of season 2, the end of an era, and we'll see what happens in season 3. So again, thank you to everyone, each and every one of you. You know who I'm talking about. Thank you to everyone for listening to today's podcast. We're really glad that you have joined us today and over the last season. If you've not yet, we would love for you to subscribe to us on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to great podcasts. If you are a fan of social media, please, we beg you, give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Theology of the Buddy. If you wish to email us, you can do so at theologyofthebuddy@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, huge shout out, random shout out. We just got an email this past week from a lady by the name of Anne-Marie. Her and her husband, Tom, wonderful people. Thank you for reaching out to us. Just a random side note. You guys are beautiful. Next week, we're not here. Deal with it.
And we'll see you. Do we have a date yet?
We don't have an official date yet, so make sure you're subscribed on social to be able to see when we're going to go live again. And if you haven't listened to our other podcasts, why not over the summer make a commitment and go through and see how we've grown as a podcast. You can see the transition from the Aaron and Matt era to the former Team Orthodoxy, Mike, Brooke, Julie era. So,
reimagined.
New and...
You said former, it hurt my heart. We are forever Team Orthodoxy.
That's true.
Yep.
That is true. So yeah,
It's like
please.
forever Kensei.
That's true. That's terrible. Yeah. So please give us those follows. Share us with your friends. Share us with your family. We'd love to consider them buddies too. So make sure you're subscribed so you'll know when we're coming back for season 3. And from all of us here to all of you,
Stay
ready.
Let's say it again. Y'all broke up on that side. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Stay tratty.
Stay tratty.
Try it again.
Tratty.
3, 2,
Stay.
1.
Stay
tratty.
One more time. All right.
The delay's
let's go.
too big.
Let's go. You guys start it. You count us down.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Stay tratty.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, that was right on.
Way to go, guys.